Welcome to Godfather TV with your host, Jeff Dennis, Chuck Insidious, Technical Director, Al Mead, and my guest, Christopher Paul.
Hey, this is Donnie Hart from Desperado, and you're watching the most kick-ass show on TV, Godfather TV, rock and roll.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jesse with Kill 'Em All, and you're watching Godfather TV.
Hey, this is Ron Rockin' for Poser TV, for Godfather TV.
What is going on, DFW? Welcome back to Godfather TV. This is where we try to showcase everything rock and metal that DFW has to offer. I am Chuck Insidious. Back there on the production duties is our production god, Mr. Al Mead. Thank you, Al. And I guess I have no freaking choice because his name's on the freaking title. I'm going to introduce the Godfather himself, Mr. Jeff Dennis.
Hey, thank you for joining us again. We love you all. Today we have a special episode. We have Christopher Paul
Stanley,
who is the second best Paul Stanley in the United States right now. So we're gonna.
Wait, I got to chime in here now. He's the first best.
Oh, he's even better than
Christopher
Paul
Paul Stanley. No, he's the first best Christopher Paul Stanley.
Oh, okay.
Well, thank you for that kind introduction. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
But we're gonna go into more layers of the onion than just him being Paul Stanley. So hope you enjoy this conversation we're gonna have with Christopher. And we're gonna start out when you were a little bitty kid. When did you first know that you wanted to be a rock star?
Wow. You know, it's weird because I actually, for the first 5 to 7 years of my life, I grew up in New York, but I never heard of Kiss, at that point. I think I was just sheltered. The most rock thing I heard was rock the boat, don't tip the boat over. And I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. It's got some rhythm to it.
And they're from New York, aren't they?
Kiss, exactly. And I was just sheltered, I guess. So when I moved to Baton Rouge, I just somehow made my way down there. I'm not even clear on that one, but I ended up down in Baton Rouge, and I was at this babysitter's house. And, okay, I got to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom. I come out, and I hear this sound down the hall to my left. And I'm just like, what is that? So I go take a left, and I go down the hall, and there's this teenager. And I walk in his bedroom, and he's blasting what I later found out to be Kiss. And on one wall, he's got, for the Love Gun album painted, just full mural size, Destroyer over here. Rock and Roll over just the full wall, and I was
Good
like,
parents, huh?
I was like, what is this? And he was like, this is Kiss. And there was just like the needle dropping in your life, and we would put on little fake Kiss concerts. We'd put the speakers up in the windows and have pans of gasoline, and we'd drop matches, and we were even trying to get girls backstage then. So
Did you paint your face?
No, we didn't have access to that, but we went for it. We would chew up like saltines and do cracker dust like it was fire. And,
Nice.
It was a whole scene,
that
man.
Works. That works.
So it kind of started there.
What was the age right there? What was the?
Oh man, I would say 7 or 8 years
Wow.
old. So it was right away that Kiss just was boom. As soon as I got to Baton Rouge, as I said, ironically, didn't hear of them in New York.
That's great. And when did you first learn to play guitar? And you decided you want to be the guitar player and not the drummer? Or you just said you like Paul Stanley? Or?
At first I wanted to be the drummer,
Okay.
and because I really identified with Peter Criss. There was just something safe about the kitty cat. You didn't feel like, what the heck's going on? I would look at Gene and, oh my God, he looks like he wants to eat me. I don't know, is Ace on something? And it looks like Paul Stanley wants to have sex with everything. So the cat was the safest one. So I wanted to play drums at first, and then I realized, wait a minute, I'm gonna be in the back, to hell with that. So then I found out who was singing what in Kiss, and I found that I was gravitating more towards the Paul Stanley material. And he just became my favorite member, particularly when the makeup came off. They shoved him out even more out front. And, you know, Gene, he was sticking his tongue out, but he didn't quite have the same aura that he did, you know, with the makeup on. And Paul was just, in my book, he was just cool.
Yep.
Still is.
He is, you know,
He's the epitome of a rock star for sure. I mean, there's a lot it takes to be Paul Stanley. I mean, it's not something simple.
Talk about living legends. I mean, those guys, today, I know this show is tape delayed and it won't be out for a while, but they'll be on the last legs of this final tour that they say they're doing. And they just announced today that December 1st and 2nd will be their last shows at Madison Square Garden in New York.
Where it all started, they said, right?
Do you really think it's going to be their last show?
I think it'll be their last extensive touring.
Yeah.
I believe that they'll maybe do a residency in Vegas or do pop-up shows here and there. But as far as touring, how much more can they do?
Yeah,
you know,
it's definitely been a long one for sure.
Gene and Paul are both in their 70s at this point, and you know, it's not like they're getting up there in jeans and t-shirts and you know, that's some heavy stuff they're wearing, particularly Gene. So at some point, you know, it becomes, it has to be the end.
Right. Inevitably, it will be, you know.
All right, so you're in Baton Rouge and you're in high school and you form your first band, Black Rose.
Correct.
Talk about that.
You know, I had a friend, you know, his name was Sean, and I was like, dude, I'm going to play guitar and you play bass, okay? And then it was like his dad mysteriously found a Les Paul and traded it to my uncle for a G&L bass. It was solid bass. And then I met this guy, Keith Knight, at high school, and he happened to play drums. So we started banging it out together, and God, we sucked for like a good year and a half. You know, just terrible. I mean, I was playing my guitar through the bass player's amp while he was playing through the amp. We couldn't afford a mic stand, so the mic was draped over the rafters and swinging by the cord, and I'm trying to sing, and it's going, well, pop, right in the mouth. So that was a lot of fun, but eventually we did progress, and we did write some originals. I have some old cassettes that, gosh, if they haven't degraded or been caught in the thing that we'll talk about later, you know, they need to get transferred to CD or something, you know. Gosh, even that sounds old school at this point.
I was going to say, for all the millennials out there, Christopher, can you explain what a cassette is?
A cassette is, it's smaller, and it has little wheels in it, and you slide it down into the tape deck, and you push close and press play, and the wheels go round and round. So that's how that works. And a CD is about this big around, and it has a hole in it, and you push it in there, and it goes round and round. So, you know.
And if your cassette got untangled, how do you fix it?
Well, you got to get the pencil.
Yeah, with the eraser, turn it. There you go.
And but if it
The
ain't
struggle
the
was
tape-
real, kids. The struggle was real.
And there was no skipping. You had to literally press fast forward or rewind, you know, if you wanted to hear a part again or skip to another part. It was, I believe they call that ROM.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Something like that. And then you listen to your cassette all the way through, and then it would just like skip, because that's the part that you had to listen to like 400 times. It was just awesome.
Exactly. I swear, I had so many CDs, you know, I would buy it and I'd be like, this is my favorite part. And like 4 of them, all 4 copies in the exact same spot would jack up. So that's the grandpa section of this episode.
The geriatric portion.
So Black Rose continued, you know, for a while, and we did pretty well. We did a little circuit and everything while we were still in high school and shortly thereafter. And, you know, the 2 guys I mentioned, Sean and Keith, who were the other principal members, they were the rhythm section. And then they had girlfriends, and both of their girlfriends dumped them simultaneously, and they, you know, bonded and just got really weird with it. You know, so I don't know, the band kind of fell apart. But before it did, like I said, we did some circuit gigs around Louisiana and up into Mississippi. So, you know, it was my first experience with like hitting the road and things like that. And like I said, we did have some originals. And when we were in high school, we won the talent show 2 years in a row. I believe 1 year, actually the first year we did Kiss's Rock and Roll All Night. Just, you know,
Nice.
might as well it's full circle over and over with the Kiss band. And, you know, and then the second year, we took it up a notch and really just killed it and did The Down Boys by Warrant. It wasn't my selection, but, you know, and I sang it more like Tony Harnell from TNT or Jeff Tate from Queensryche, and I'm really complimenting myself now. But we won, and, you know, the band continued for a while, and then it just kind of broke up, you know, because of the girlfriend, and they just got weird with it. I can't even really explain.
Too many groupies, right?
Yeah,
It was just tough.
right. Too many for them, not enough for me.
Yeah.
Is there ever too many?
So how'd you end up in Dallas area?
I had considered moving to Georgia after the Black Crowes had struck because I wanted to do like blues, hard rock. You know, Badlands had come out with Jake Ely and Ray Gillen and Eric Singer and Greg Chason. And man, I went right to that. You know, the hair metal, it started to do some things that I was shying away from, you know, the Poison and the thing like that, and where you can't tell the girls from the guys. You know, everybody, if you didn't have a blonde-haired lead singer with lipstick on, you were nobody. You know, and then I thought the ship was trying to right itself with bands like Badlands, and I thought Lynch Mob was really coming alive with George Lynch's new product, and you know, so that's where I wanted to go. But it was short-lived, that era, because Nirvana came along and blew those doors open.
Just real quick.
Sure.
Honorable mention, Hardline. Remember Hardline?
Oh, yeah.
I gotta say I don't.
Neil Sean?
Okay, I know who that is,
They
obviously.
did that song Hot Cherie. Probably.
Oh,
You
yeah.
heard it on the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're along the same lines of
same year all
Badlands,
the other
man.
bands came out.
Well,
Honorable
I need-
mention. Yeah.
I need to look into that.
Dude, you're gonna love it. You'd love it.
And, you know, so the friend from Black Rose, Sean, the bass player, he had been going to North Texas up in Denton. He was in the jazz program, and he was like, you know, I'm going to move down to Dallas. And I had this woman that I was with at the time, and she was smoking hot like a more athletic-looking Cindy Crawford, had the mole and everything. And she said, well, I'm thinking about, you know, moving to New York, but if you want me to move to Dallas with you, I sure will. And I was like, well, hell yeah.
There you go.
You know, so I moved to Dallas, and I couldn't get anything going for a long time because I just wanted to sing. I didn't want to play guitar as well. I just wanted to be the front man and sing. And every band I would put together, it would be like, okay, we have a drummer, we have myself singing and a guitar player, now we just need a bass player. Oh, can't find a bass player, that would dissolve. Then, okay, different situation, okay, we can't find a drummer this time, and it would dissolve. So finally I just said, okay, I'm gonna do 2 jobs at once, and I'm gonna play lead guitar and sing and be the front. I'm just gonna like take on all the responsibilities that I can. And that's when I started a band called Bourbon Street here in Dallas. And, you know, we started performing, you know, O'Reilly's was the real hot place at that point.
Yep.
And in venues like that, there was a,
What year was that?
golly, I would have,
92?
maybe, something like that.
I didn't move here
yeah.
until 94, so it was
Yeah.
before. Yeah, okay.
Something like, no, it couldn't have been 92 because I think I moved here in 93 as well. 92, 93 is when I moved here, and it took 2 or 3 years to get anything going. And
96?
yeah, something like that. And because, yeah, I think Kiss announced their reunion tour
Right.
shortly thereafter. But the band was going pretty good. You know, we were writing originals, and they're on YouTube. I can send you guys links to that if you want to feed some of the music in here.
Please do.
I think the songs still stand up because I didn't try to write what was new. I just wrote what I felt, you know, I wanted to write. And it was more, I had more of a dance kind of vibe, I think, to it. I was thinking like Sly and the Family Stone and, you know, Stevie Wonder meets the Badlands kind of thing, you know?
Cool.
And, you know, I can send you some of those tracks, as I said. And that went well for a while, and then, you know, but the problem was we couldn't really get anywhere. We literally, the bass player guy, he was an older fella named Bernie, and God, he could play. So that's really all I cared about. But he's over there, he's older, he's got, you know, the gray beard and all this, and I'm in my 20s. You know, I got all the hair and wearing dark clothing, and he's over there literally in khakis and a Hawaiian shirt. But as I said, he could jam, so I was just like, let's get this thing going.
Right.
But we had, visually, when you looked at us, it was like all over the place. So that didn't really pan out either. So that's the first band I got going.
And then Fish-Eyed Fool was next?
Fish-Eyed Fool was next, which was more the old guy. He just kind of got tired, and he wanted to slow down a little bit. He just didn't want to play as much. We lost the drummer. He was actually, we were at Universal Rehearsal on Greenville, and for years, and he got to the point where he was kind of down and out, so he was living in the rehearsal room.
You're right.
And I mean, I'm sure we all have had, a member that just happens, and, you want the best you can do for them. Absolutely, man, stay here if you need to. So, but then one day I show up to the rehearsal hall and he's just gone, and I've never heard from the guy again, so I replaced both members, and, some of the drummer that I had at the time, great drummer, he's still around, his name is O.C. Last, and but he was, kind of would wear this like flowery scarf, and he had this sharpened mustache, and he was a real, hey, hip cat, and, again, it just didn't really mesh with the look.
Carmen Appice.
Yeah, just the look didn't mesh, but man, he could play, and again, he took some of the vocal responsibilities, off of me, singing every song every night can, start to wear on you, and he did great for a while, and then, he was a little bit older, and he just we just went our separate ways. I don't even remember what happened, and then we had Ray Infante come in.
I love Ray. Ray,
Me too.
I freaking love you, man. Such a great guy.
Yeah,
Such a great guy.
Ray came in for the last leg of Fish-Eyed Fool, and we had the bass player that replaced the guy in the Hawaiian shirt. He was a real conniver, and he just tried to start some trouble between me and my wife, and it was just like, that's it, you got to go.
Right.
And that band dissolved, and then I started playing with Steve Clier, and he plays bass, and he sings, and he had a band called Crush, and he asked me to join, and I was like, well, that had come to an end, the Fish-Eyed Fool thing, and just keep the ball rolling. So I joined up with him, and I was the hard rock guy, and he was more kind of the one song that I just had to absolutely veto, for instance. This was more what he wanted to do, was Katrina and the Waves, Walking on Sunshine, and I was like, look, man, I can go on a lot of this stuff, but I can't get there, So, but that was more the side that he represented, and it all came together quite well. And during this period is, I saw in the newspaper, or probably the Observer, in the back when they used to...
Harder Beat, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was the Dallas Observer, in the back where they would advertise, for whatever, bands. And I saw that there was this cattle call for Six Flags, and I'm just like, what the hell? So I got my Fender Strat, and I went down there, and I auditioned, and there were a slew of guitar players and a bunch of drummers. It was just a packed room full of people. And when I go to audition, they stuck me in a room, and there's Paul Brown on the drums. They're just like, okay, these guys go together. And Paul became one of my lifelong friends. He's a great drummer. He was in Rock and Roll Over for 9 years. And he came along in the Crush deal with Steve Clier. And Paul, interestingly enough, after a health scare, who can land on their feet but Paul Brown in Back in Black? I mean, good God, that is, talk about...
Metal Shop before that, so he was doing
Talk
all
about,
kinds of good stuff.
I mean, he was the kitty cat, Peter Criss, and Rock and Roll Over. Talk about landing on your feet. He absolutely did, and that's just one of my best friends of all time.
And he's one of our next guests too.
Paul is one of the greatest human beings, and he's going to be a teacher, which is also more awesome. But yeah, I just love Paul to death too, man. Great human being.
So, please.
What else you got after Crush? Did you go? Was that straight to Destroyer, or did Crave come in there?
Well, in Crush, we started we started adding more and more Kiss songs. And Steve Clear, you know, in his mocking tone, we should just start a Kiss tribute band. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't think he was serious. So then we're going along, and he's like, you know, we should just start a Kiss tribute band. And he said like 2 or 3 times, and I was like, okay, game on. So I asked Ray Infante, you know, who's the best ace in town? Because Ray is a huge Kiss fan,
yep.
you know, probably surpassing my level of fandom. So I asked Ray, who's the best Ace Frehley that you know or think could be? And he said, well, there's this guy, Jimbo, who's really an outstanding guitar player, but the look isn't really there. But his brother, Bob, you know, he's a huge Kiss fan, and, you know, he has Les Pauls, and he's got the hair. And this was back to me in the infancy.
2004 or somewhere in there? I know I saw y'all in 2005 and y'all were still pretty new, but y'all had been around for a little bit, so I'm guessing
That sounds probably about
2004-ish,
right.
maybe 2003 when y'all started, but.
We rehearsed for quite a while before we ever performed, I think 9 months. You know, because we didn't want it to be, oh, they're okay, and then get a little better, you know, I don't want it to be that. So, in the infancy of the internet, like, there was no MySpace that I know of yet. I think MySpace was just around the corner. So I'm searching high and low for this Bob Thomas.
Yeah.
I was like, is that his name? You know, because I think I'd written it down, but I'm not the most organized all the time. But anyway, so I tracked Bob down, and I went over for a meeting to his house, and, you know, it seemed like we hit it off. And, you know, so we got it going, and I remember it was Paul Brown. Gosh, all these names keep recurring.
Yep.
He called me, he said, hey, there's this flyer at Guitar Center that there's a Peter Criss, and he says he has all the costumes, and he's ready to roll. So we called this guy up, and it was Joey Harris. And I mean, gosh, he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but you don't really find that out right away. But he was neurotic right off the bat. But anyway, so we called him up, and he came out and rehearsed, and he was left-handed, so that's wrong. But he had costumes, and he could play. He wasn't a very good drummer, but you know, the other guys seemed to like him okay, so I was like, okay, let's do it. And like I said, that's probably why we rehearsed for 9 months, because, you know, he was probably the weak link of the band, and his insanity kept dripping out more and more. But we plowed through, and for a couple of years, we kept that lineup together. And then the drummer, he just went batshit crazy, like just too much for me to handle. I was like, you gotta go. And so then we got Dave Bauer in the band.
That's the first time I saw you at Dave.
Okay.
Which is also left-handed.
This is Destroyer, by the way.
Right,
we're talking
Destroyer.
About, yeah, Destroyer.
The first Kiss tribute band.
One of the first
that I
tribute
started
bands.
in
One of the
town.
first tribute bands in town.
Right.
It's like Back in Black and Destroyer, maybe Made in Texas, and
And
a couple
there was, of
more in
course,
that.
the Beatles tribute
oh
band.
yeah, Hard
Night's Day.
and
Yeah.
Me and My Monkey or
Bricks
whatever.
in the Wall, I think, was around then, too.
Yeah, there was only maybe 7 or 8.
Like 3 or 4,
Right.
about that many?
It wasn't flooded for sure.
Yeah, Livewire started shortly after that too, because Ted was only
Yeah.
16, so
Judas Rising started in 2000,
somewhere in there.
2000.
But yeah, there wasn't many.
Yeah.
Right.
Wasn't many.
So we got Dave Bauer in, and things are going well, I think. But I'm just going to call it what it is. It seemed like Bob wanted more and more control of the band that I started. And I didn't mind sharing control. You know, I'm not a control freak. It's like, he didn't even want me booking gigs, but he didn't have any reason why he didn't want me booking gigs. I'm like, is something missing? And he couldn't answer why, you know. And then he tried to put the website on lockdown, and I wasn't having that. And just things progressively got more and more contentious with him. But I could have still coexisted. I mean, you know, we don't have to be friends. You know, we just rehearse, I leave. You know, we do the show, hey, you know, let's get up here and kick ass, you know, and then it's over. We don't have to hang out afterwards, you know, just go your separate ways. So I was fine with it, but behind the scenes, he just wanted control so much that it was driving Steve Clear, the gene in the band. I assume it was just driving him nuts, and he was like, well, let's just get rid of him. And, you know, so that's what they did, but Steve also wanted to play in my new Kiss tribute band, Rock and Roll Over. So I think he was like two birds with one stone, maybe three birds, because he wanted to stop hearing Bob complain about me and play in two different bands and like cherry pick what he was going to do, make double the money. You know, it sounds like a good plan on the surface, but it didn't take long for it to kind of blow up. And, you know, Steve, I haven't spoken to Steve in years, and, you know, I really would like, we were friends for years before we did the Kiss tribute band, you know, and Crush. We did a lot of hardcore working and laughing and having fun, you know, and of course, you know, when you're on the road with any band, shit's gonna break. You know, somebody's gonna step in a hole and hurt their ankle. You know, bad things are gonna happen too, but I don't really remember any of those things. Right. You know, so Steve, it would be great to hear from you again, and I hope you're well.
Yeah, what about you and Bob? Y'all get along, or y'all don't talk either?
I don't mess with Bob, but every once in a while, somebody will screenshot something from Facebook where Bob's got to pop off about Rock and Roll Over, how I'm not going to go into detail, but it's always negative and extremely negative. So I'll go over there and be like, dude, why are you doing this again? You know, there's no need for this. And, you know, I leave you alone. You go do your band. I'm doing mine. It's like he holds the grudge, yet he's the one that kicked me out of the band that I started. Right. So I don't really get it. And I've run into Bob a few times, and he's like been real physically aggressive with me. Like, I was walking into a Dokken concert at Gas Monkey Live, and you know, Mix Lee, he's going to get my Underlock and Key album signed by Wild Mick Brown. I've already got, you know, George to sign it. I got Don to sign it. I'm like, all right, man, this is my third signature. And I'm like walking in, and I'm like 16 years old again, like he's going to sign it right there, and bam, he just somebody blindsides me. Who should it be but Bob Thomas? And you know,
When you say blindsided, is like push, a punch?
Like, he just ran into me with his shoulder, you know, as hard as he could. And, you know, it didn't knock me down, and I didn't even see who it was at first. I just reacted. And then he goes scurrying on his back on the floor, and I'm like, security! And he just gets up and runs off into the crowd. And I'm just like, what's to be gained by this? I don't understand it. You know, now I will say that his wife, after my recent catastrophe, she did, you know, she did donate $50. So I'm not going to say that everything's bad. I do thank her for that. And if he had anything to do with that donation, or even if he didn't, it came from that direction. So thank you.
Yeah. So after Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over started up, you went through several guys at the front to get that perfect lineup, or did you just jump in with this 4 guys? Well, like you said, Steve was part of it for a little while, and then
very short
you
period.
had different drummers, I know, at first, didn't you?
No, it was Paul Brown right off the bat.
Okay.
Because I don't remember. He seems to recollect that or Steve or I asked him to audition for Destroyer, and he just kind of blew it off. He was doing his original thing, and you know, of course, more power to him. You know, I'm all for anybody doing their own music. It's unfortunately a lot of spinning wheels, and that's what frustrates us guys, and we get into tribute bands. You know, because we believe in the music normally that we're tributing, but that's another point. But Paul was the drummer right off the bat. He was like, I'm not missing it this time, I want in. And Alan Shelley, who is still in Rock and Roll Over, thankfully, he and I are the only original members left. He contacted me. I was barely aware of him. He was in a startup tribute band at that point called Love Gun, and it seemed like what happened was Destroyer stole his Paul Stanley to replace me, and so he hit me up, and we just did that. And you know, the proof is in the pudding as far as the results.
I saw Love Gun.
You know, as far as the results of what Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over have accomplished, you know, just look at the schedule. That's all I can say about that. But we've had quite a few Genes come and go. What happened with Steve, he was in the early version of the first Def Leppard tribute band around here, Hysteria. Mm-hmm. He was in that and Rock and Roll Over and Destroyer. Well, we were at Universal Rehearsal on Greenville, and we're in the parking lot, and Steve, me and Paul are standing there, and Steve comes up, and he says, hey, I'm not going to do that Rock and Roll Over show in Fort Worth at City Streets because Destroyer has a $6,000 gig in Phoenix on a Thursday. And I was just like, okay. And I turned to Paul, what do you want to do? Do you want to cancel the show or you want me to try to find a sub? He was like, I don't want to do the show. So I went and found a sub. Well, come to find out, not surprisingly in my view, that $6,000 show on a Thursday in Phoenix was Swampland in Florida. It did not happen. So I already found a sub, but Steve Clear calls me up and he's like, well, I guess I'll do your show. And I was like, too late. I already got somebody.
And who did you get?
Mike Campion from Houston, Texas. He had a band down there called Gene's Addiction. And, a play on the Jane's Addiction thing. And they would all dress up like Gene facially and play all Gene Simmons songs. And he was the Gene, and he would go full on with the costume and the boots, and he was pretty strong. And he was down in Houston, so he comes up to do the show at City Streets in Houston, and who should show up but Steve Clear? And I can hear him in the back heckling between every time we stop. He's just back there saying something and just being ugly.
Can I say something real quick, Christopher?
Yeah.
Just stop. Everybody, just stop. Why? Why does it have to be like that, man? Let's just let Christopher do his shit. Let me do my shit. Let Jeff do his shit. Let Al do his shit. Just shut the fuck up and
Everybody
enjoy the show.
support everybody.
Yes.
One
We
big
have
happy
to fucking
family.
Get over this bullshit. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, and he didn't want to do the show. So now he's mad that I found a replacement and comes to the show that he turned down. It's all right. So then eventually, finally, about 3/4 of the way of the show, he leaves. And he goes back and starts posting stuff on Facebook about how fantastic he is and all this and that. I'm going to Louisiana, which is where I'm from, to visit family, and I just try to ignore it. So anyway, the guy in Houston, Mike Campion, hits me up and he's like, hey, I have a show at Houston House of Blues. Do you guys want to do it with me? And I'm like, absolutely, we do.
Was this the same guy that played at that concrete amphitheater in
Yes.
Corpus?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember when Blizzard of Oz played with you guys.
I
That's
do.
that same guy? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy. Really,
He
really
is.
cool guy. Yeah.
So we're like, absolutely, we want to do it. So me and Clear are riding together back and forth from Abilene to do a Hysteria show. And this guy on the bass, he just didn't seem to know the songs very well, so I was frustrated with that. And on the way home, he just starts in on the guy that filled in. And I'm like, dude, he did a great job. He's a nice guy. He's not coming back. Just leave it alone. But so he drops it for about 10 minutes, and it's a 3-hour drive
I know,
from
from
Abilene.
Abilene.
We've all done it.
Hefs.
Absolutely.
Thank God. Thank you, Christopher.
Oh,
Hefs.
we both send them back and forth, send
Right.
shows back and forth. And he just keeps bringing this guy up again and over and over. And finally, I just said, okay, well, here's the scoop. We're doing Houston House of Blues with him. How do you like that? And he did not like that. And that's the last time that I saw Steve Clear in person that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
So then Mike Campion is our Gene. And KISS holds this big worldwide search for the best KISS tribute band in the world. Okay, so we of course submit as Rock and Roll Over. Destroyer submits, Strutter, up north in Ohio, I'm sure they submitted. KISS Army, both versions, they submitted. Like there were 225 submissions from all around the world.
Nice.
So then KISS whittles it down, or whoever runs KISS Online, they whittle it down to a top 20 and open it up to voting because they're going to get down to a top 4. And gosh, Rock and Roll Over made it. And we're like thrilled because the band's only been together for about 2 years. And the other 3 bands that made the top 4, they've been around for no less than 10 to 15 years each. One was from Australia, one was from Hungary, which is, where Gene's roots are. And then there was a band from Ohio. And we were thrilled to get in. Some people that are aforementioned were not thrilled that we got in, and they went online and had the talk noise. So we go out to Vegas and we perform, and Mike Campion gets out there, the Gene, and he and his wife fall in love with Las Vegas. So poof, there he went. He moved to Las Vegas.
Man.
And so here we are, back to square one on the Gene thing, and we used Jason McMaster for a handful of shows, you know, from Dangerous Toys, and gosh, he did such a great job. He was a lot of fun to be around.
He loves Kiss.
He does. You know, he actually had his own non-makeup Kiss tribute band called Sick, you know, SSIK for quite a while. So the stories he would tell, it was just like, it either had you laughing, jaw on the floor, or a combination of both. It was just fantastic. But we couldn't afford him over the long haul. You know, we got to fly him. And then, you know, he wants to be paid. He's Jason McMaster.
Jason McMaster.
Yeah, you know, so there was no hard feelings. And then we started using Jim Seda, who had been around forever doing the Kiss thing. I think he has said that he started doing the Kiss tribute in 1985, which is, gosh, if you want to put that in perspective, that's when Tears Are Falling came out, the Kiss Asylum album.
Right.
So that's a long time. I mean, that makes sense to do the Kiss tribute whenever Kiss are not wearing the makeup, you know? So that was really cool. And he came in, but he didn't want to move to Texas either. He wanted to stay in Kentucky, and that started costing money. The budget was just strained. So I stumbled across Dan Castiel, and he's been, that's right. I stumbled upon Dan. He had put out, hey, he wants to do live band karaoke. And I was like, this guy plays bass. So I hit him up and I was like, hey, I think I can do this live band karaoke with you, and Paul can play drums. And we were all about it. I went to have a meeting with him, and then he was like, aren't you Christopher Paul from Rock and Roll Over? I was like, well, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we just got to talking, and I said, I'm about had it with this flying this guy in from Kentucky. He's great and everything, but he was giving us some problems at that point. He had a girl that was in his ear, and we know how that can go. There's Yoko Onos on all levels.
No more girls in ears, please.
It's just the way it goes. And so Dan came in, he fresh, brand new. It wasn't that he hadn't heard Kiss songs, but he hadn't played them. You know, if he had, it was Rock and Roll Night or just a song here or there. So he was really rusty, but I told him, I believe that you can do this. You know, you just have to believe in somebody sometimes. And I did. I completely believed in Dan. And the guy is like spitting fire and blood and singing these songs. We do great harmony vocals.
He's born with the tongue, too. That helps.
Yeah. He's got the tongue situation. He's tall and thin, you know.
Say it.
What?
Say it. Say it, Christopher.
Oh, stick that fucking tongue out.
Stick out that fucking tongue.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to throw
No, that was just all ad-lib. That's why I couldn't remember it for a second.
That was genius.
Yeah, I usually do pretty good with the ad-lib things.
Or we'll pick y'all's flowers.
That's right. At the Bluebonnet Palace.
Right? Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, Dan has come in and he's done a fine job. And over the last 2 or 3 years, Paul had a health situation. I'm not going to talk about all that, but it was, you know, we had seen him struggling for a while and tried to, you know, hey, you don't need to be doing this or that. And can't help somebody until they want to be helped.
Right.
And he had a health issue and he had to bow out. We thought he was coming back, that's what he told us, but I don't know, it just didn't happen. For whatever reason, we haven't really dredged it up and been like, what the fuck, why didn't you come back? You know, just if you don't want to come back, don't come back. I ain't gonna beg you. You know, if you want to be here, we want you here. But if not, you know, I still love you, bruh. You know, go do whatever you got to do. So we tried out this drummer who lives in the Austin area who was in a band that was semi-big in the 90s called Cold. He came up to Dallas, you know, and jammed with us. And, man, he just killed every single song. Then the pandemic hit.
Ah, shit.
And he hasn't done a show since, you know, either with Cold or rock and roll over. He just hasn't played a show. He's got some kids with some immune system compromised situations, so he's very leery. Sam is his name, Sam McCandless. Man, he was great. So I get hit up by Jeff Gerhardt. You know, he's like, hey, I want to audition. And I was like, well, we got somebody, man. He was like, oh, I want to audition anyway. And I was like, okay, you know, come on down. And Jeff came down, and man, that kid.
Jeff is Merca.
Jeff
Yeah.
rules.
Yeah.
He
That was
fucking
such
love
an
you,
odd
Jeff.
pairing. When he first heard he was joining, I was like, death metal Jeff?
Right.
Pantera Jeff?
He's going to be
But
singing
he
Beth.
kills it, man.
Yeah, Jeff's
and his
gonna be
vocals,
singing
I
Beth.
told him last time I saw him that his vocals are so good now. It's like he kicks ass on Beth and Hard Luck Woman and Black Diamond.
He does. So he hits me up, and he comes down, and he just hits so hard. You know, you can be in the next room and still need earplugs. The guy just, I don't ever want him to put that upside my grill.
And
Let's
from
just say that.
and from a drummer's perspective too, when Paul was in Rock and Roll Over, one of the best drum solos I've ever heard. But Jeff is right up there, man. Jeff throws such a great drum solo. You gotta go see it. Gotta go see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I believe that catches us up to our current lineup, which consists of myself, Christopher Paul, Alan Shelley, the other original member of the band, and then Dan Castiel. He's been in the band for about 6, maybe 7 years.
Already?
I believe February will be his anniversary of joining the band. And then Jeff Gerhardt, I believe, has been in the band for 3 years.
Already?
And the great story about Dan's anniversary is I took him to Abilene, you know, let's do a show out of town for your first show. You know, I don't want you to be here in Dallas and like, that sucked or something. So we're in Abilene. It was before Hef's, same
Hef's, yeah.
same place.
Same place?
But they didn't have a stage over there. They didn't have that back end all opened up yet. And it's a very small stage. It's like not even level. It's like leaning. And then there's cords along the front. And I tell Dan before we go on, now just because you see me kicking and jumping doesn't mean you need to kick and jump. I've been doing this a long time. I know how to do it. Okay. So we're performing, and I like do a jump kick, you know, out front. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see Dan do a kick, and over he goes. And like his boot just shredded, and he fell into the first row. He fell right into the first row, and it seemed like he hit his ribs on a table, and I was just like, okay, now what is he gonna do? And to his credit, he got right the fuck up, you know, and we sat him down, and we did like, you know, we taped his boot up, and he got up there and he finished the show, and
that's rock and roll.
you know, that showed me right there what Dan was made out of, you know, and there you go. There's Dan's first show story right there.
Awesome.
Dan.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Let me go back a little bit. You talked about earlier about Hysteria.
Right.
The first Def Leppard band, that was a hell of a band. It was you, Taylor, Paul Brown, Mike Hamill, and Stacy, right? Stacy Toon?
Yeah, the first lineup.
Trey was the original singer, wasn't
Yeah, Trey Doss from Blaze of Glory was
Okay.
actually the first.
Okay, I
singer.
didn't know that version.
Yeah, it was myself, Dave Harvey from Millennial Reign.
Okay.
We had Trey Doss on vocals, Michael Feehan on drums, and then a guy named Wade Jackson on bass.
Okay.
And man, that lineup was pretty strong, but Trey didn't really enjoy singing the Def Leppard stuff. He just, man, every time I hear myself singing it, I fucking hate it. And so, you know, that's a shot across the bow. This ain't gonna last long. So, and then Dave, he got a record deal for his Millennial Reign situation, and he, you know, who could blame him?
Right.
You know, I got a record deal. I'm gonna go do that. You know, I want to put all my energy into that. And then, you know, Michael Feehan, he's an White Cross.
White
That's
Cross.
the name
Yep.
of it. And man, talk about a phenomenal drummer. You know,
Yeah, he's great.
he was in the Crave cover band that I had with Mike. His last name is slipping my mind. He was in Red Leather for a long time.
Freed.
That's it.
Yeah,
I'm so
Mike
sorry,
Freeman.
Mike. The white hot lights, the lights. I'm feeling the pressure. So he was in Crave for a while. You know, we were all doing a power trio. But back to Hysteria. You know, once that fell apart, I was just kind of like, well, you know, I don't know. And I had known Mike Hamill because he took a swim through Steve Clear, his Crush band. He came in for a little while, and you know, he didn't really last long, but I remembered him, and we kind of lived in the same community in Mesquite, and he would run into me at the gym quite frequently. It was like I didn't see this guy ever at the gym. Then when Hysteria breaks up, all of a sudden I see him at the gym a lot. I'm like, okay, you know, I don't know how that works, but and he's like, hey, let's start that back up, and I'm like, okay, you know, just kind of half-hearted, and we got it going again. It was myself, Mike Hamill, again, my stalwart, Paul Brown on the drums. We had Taylor on bass, and Stacy Toon ended up being the singer. He auditioned, and he was the best one. You know, we even auditioned Steve Clear to be the lead singer, because he's tall like Joe Elliott, and he kind of, you know, do the hair right, he would have the look. But Stacy outsang him, so that's who got the gig. And
Did Mitch Carpenter ever sing with Hysteria?
no,
He sang with.
He sang with Death Legend, right?
Yeah.
I thought maybe he'd done
So-
Hysteria too.
you know, Mike and I were like on good terms now, but it was just a situation after a while where Mike wanted to start bringing tracks into the band, and I was very anti that. I wanted it to keep it, you know, guitars and drums and bass and meat and potatoes, and that's just not what he wanted. And so he kind of started Def Legend behind my back, and it was a source of contention for quite a few years because I kept Hysteria going, and you know, I felt like a band meeting would have solved a lot of problems, but that never happened. Same thing with Destroyer. It just seems like nobody wants to communicate, and you know, they just go do what the hell they want to do. And you know, Def Legend have obviously done quite well for themselves, so I can't say anything. I gotta shut the fuck up. They've done quite well.
Did you have a short-lived Scorpions thing for a while, Christopher?
No.
I thought you were doing a Scorpions thing for a while. At least that's what I heard.
His name probably got brought up as
Yeah.
somebody they were going to ask, but I don't
No,
think
well,
it.
the story is that like you would do the Scorpions thing, opening up for Hysteria at certain shows.
You know, that does sound familiar now that you mention it. I had brought that up. I thought that would be a good idea because Stacy kind of has that, he sings in the mask right here, and he can get that rasp kind of like Klaus Meine, how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Meine.
So that was, you know, if you can, and you're not having to deal with Kiss makeup, you want to have, you know, two bands. That way you just knock it out. I think you're kind of the king of that now, right?
Kind of,
Yeah.
maybe.
So it didn't get past the talking stage, and you know, there we are on that.
Yep. Also, Christopher gets flown out to other cities to perform as Paul with other bands. Can you tell us about that?
I sure
How that
can.
works? I know there's not a lot of Paul Stanleys that are worth the crap in the United States. I've seen all the videos, and I think they all want him, and they take him whenever they can.
Right. I've done a number of. I've performed with both Kiss Armies. I've performed with Strutter. I've done like kind of an all-star band up in the Milwaukee area that I will probably be doing some work with in September. So it's just kind of, every time I go into that situation, I just want to do a good job. I don't want to pick the songs. I'm not giving them any guff. You know, I don't want to argue. It's your band. I'm just here to plug and play and kick butt. You know, but if I start doing too good, the person whose band it is seems to kind of get in an uproar. You know, the gene will just start, I'm the front man, I'm supposed to do the talking, and he'll interrupt me in the middle of something. And I'm just like, do you want to do the talking? Because I'm good with
I'm
just...
trying to keep this, you know, the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I'm good with going over here and toweling off and getting something to drink if you want to, you know, do all the talking. I'm okay with that. Oh, no. Well, okay then. You know, so I'll go back to talking, and then the next show, the same thing will happen. Or, you know, we agreed to a certain amount of money, and then we get to the end of the rainbow, and I look in the pot of gold, and there's less gold in there than I was promised. And who's going to put up with that?
Right.
No.
You know, I agreed to do this for a certain amount of money, so where is it? And that can happen, but it's been largely a good thing to do because I like to travel, and be it either with my Kiss tribute band or other Kiss tribute bands. You know, I've been able to go to Seattle and visit where Jimi Hendrix is buried, you know, on a number of occasions, and it never gets old. His mausoleum thing is just, wow, it's incredible. You get to go inside the funeral home and sign the guest book. You know, and when we've done Los Angeles, I've been able to stay in Jim Morrison's motel room and go around to all the Jim Morrison sites and
sing L.A. Woman on the throne.
exactly.
Yeah.
Jim Morrison recorded L.A. Woman in a bathroom sitting on the toilet, you know, because they like the reverb in there, and I've been in that exact bathroom. I'm sure the toilet has changed since 1970, but the fixtures have changed, but the reverb remains the same.
Right.
And I've been able to do that, sing L.A. Woman in that bathroom. And I'm sure the people, it's a restaurant now.
We're going to put a picture of that up.
And I'm sure the people in the restaurant trying to enjoy their Chinese food are like, what the fuck is going on in here? Right. they're like,
I'm trying to eat it.
they don't even know what LA Woman is.
So have you gone to visit Bruce Lee's grave in Seattle?
In Seattle, no, but I did go to Chinatown, and there's a massive statue down there.
Cool, I gotta go check that out.
I got some pictures with that, but that was about 5 phones ago, so
Right.
I don't think I have that anymore.
Speaking of out of town, what does Rock and Roll Over have going this summer out of state? Anything booked yet that you know of?
Well, we have stuff going all the way into July, and one cool thing we're going to be doing is going out to Atlanta, Georgia, and performing at a big music festival out there. I believe that's on July 22nd, and it's the people that have 37 Main, but it's not going to be at that venue. It's going to be somewhere supposedly pretty large, and he wants us to bring all the stuff, the fire and the columns, and because he says it's 50 feet ceiling, and you know, he knows we can do the justice to the music, but he was like, now refresh me on what all the props and all the stuff you have. So the gig was apparently contingent not just upon the music and the look of the band, but you know,
The show.
bring the damn show. Cool. So, but whatever, you know, I'll even go buy some new crap if I got to, man, because
yeah.
I've you know, wanted to work with this guy again for a long time. But
Road trip.
that's right.
I love
That's
road trips, man.
That's kind of an easier one because we've driven all the way.
Straight down 20. Can't miss it.
Right. Don't drive into the ocean. That's
Yeah.
just stop before you hit the water.
Yeah.
So we've driven to Los Angeles a number of times and to do shows out there, and that's such a hard grind. You get out of the vehicle and you're just, you know, walking into IHOP or something to get something to eat, and literally your body is just still vibrating from the road. It's a crazy sensation, and you can't get it to stop. You'll be laying in the bed and it still feels like you're going down the road. But like I said, no guts, no glory, or like I'm saying now, no guts, no glory. And the cool things you get to see, we've been to Randy Rhoads'
those
grave a
pictures,
number of
yeah.
times, and again, how's that going to get old?
Right?
Yeah.
Never.
That was a real treat to Jeff Gerhardt. He got to rub that in Jim Cry's face. He really enjoyed that. Because obviously, you know, Jim Cry being one of the more shreddy guitar players
right.
around here, Randy Rhoads is a big hero of his.
Yes.
And, you know, just doing the Kiss thing, I got to be semi-friends with Vinnie Paul. You know, we were on a first-name basis. I, of course, didn't have a nickname for him, but I was Christoipher. And it would be loud. Like anytime I entered his house or the clubhouse, or if I saw him at 7-Eleven, it's coming. And it was Christopher, and he'd have Brian Bride Dog do it with him, and they'd be like, I don't know if they're counting down or what's going on, but it would be simultaneous, and it was just really loud, and it was just really a shame, you know, when we lost Vinnie Paul too. I was really bummed out. It's still quite a drag, but you know, that's how rock and roll goes. A lot of us don't live forever. Now then, there's Kiss. Who can believe every single member of the original Kiss is still
I
alive?
know. Speaking of the real Kiss, have they have any knowledge to your band in there? They have seen you or made a comment or sent you any messages or anything?
Well, making it to the top 4 was an acknowledgement,
Right.
you know, of Kiss. We didn't end up winning that. I felt we should have, but I'm sure all 4 of the bands felt they should have won. You know, let me dispel one myth that the other Kiss tribute band around here tried to float out, that we came in 4th place. There was no 4th place. It was, this is the winner, and they didn't say anything else. You know, they weren't gonna shame the 4th place. You know, there was no 4th place. So
Participation trophy?
yeah, there was none of that. It was just, this is the band that won, good night. You know, that was it. And, but what was the question again? Have they acknowledged it further?
Have you spoke to
Yeah.
any of them about it? Do they know about, like, Def Legend meets up with the Def Leppard guys and they're 100% behind the band
Right.
and all that?
Well,
Gene ain't tried to sue you or nothing like that, like Don Henley did
that's
Desperado?
about as good as support as you can get right there.
Yeah.
That Gene doesn't want to sue you, and that's a stamp of approval to start with. But you know, we made the top 4, and Tommy Thayer, the guy who was in Ace Frehley's place at this point on lead guitar, you know, he came up and he was very complimentary to me specifically. And I'm just like, this is a band effort, you know, my guys are standing right here, and he's like, yeah, but, and he really was just profusely talking. It kind of embarrassed me, you know, but I guess if you're going to get embarrassed, that's a good way to get
Yeah.
embarrassed. You know, he didn't say anything bad about the other members, but he was profusely just like commending me, and it was.
I remember when he was in the Kiss tribute band, Cold Gin.
Cold
I
Gin.
saw them. I took Taylor to see them when he was 4. And Taylor thought it was Ace. He met him in the bathroom. He said, Ace is here.
Might as well, he like crowned him.
Hey?
And then there you go. A few years later, he is Ace. So
Exactly.
it's kind of weird.
So, anyway, Tommy Thayer says to me and the rest of the members, okay, whenever we come through Dallas or Texas, you guys, you know, I'll set you up, come backstage and say hello, you know, free. And that's another stamp, because it's at least $1,000 to get that picture with Kiss, unless, you know, your son is opening.
Right.
Yeah, I got lucky.
But yeah, so it was $1,000 that we didn't have to pay. And I think Mike Campion also took them up on it. But Hysteria had a show in Dallas, so the night Kiss was here. So I wasn't able to attend, so I drove down to Houston either the night before or the night after, whatever it was. And I went to meet them. And then I introduced myself to Doc McGee. I was like, well, Christopher. And he's like, I know who you are. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
You know, like the manager knows who I am. So then he invited me on the bus. I drank all his Heineken. And
Yeah, Doc was cool. We got to meet him.
so I ended up with like a laminate. And so when they came to Oklahoma City, I went to Oklahoma City. When they went to Chicago, I flew up to Chicago and went backstage. So, but one story that sticks out, speaking of embarrassment, is in Oklahoma City, I'm waiting in line to meet Kiss. Okay, I get to the front of the line, and I'm standing there, you know, I'm getting in place, and I'm still facing Kiss, about to turn around and take my picture. And Eric Singer goes, hey, Paul, there's the guy that's going to replace you. And I was just like in the picture, I'm just like, I got a hangdog expression, like I'm looking for a table to crawl under.
Damn.
Paul didn't say a damn word. He just like, I didn't even hear that shit.
Damn.
You know? A similar situation happened in Houston. Like when I was walking up, Tommy Thayer recognized me, and he was the first one in line. It was Tommy, then Paul, then Eric Singer, then Gene Simmons. So I go up and Tommy's like, hey, Paul, this is that guy I was telling you about. And Paul's just staring straight forward.
Nothing.
Yeah. So Paul is just the way Paul is, you know, and whatever, man. It's still my hero. It didn't hurt my
Speaking
feelings.
of that subject, you know, Kiss always said they're never going to retire. They're going to retire, but their band is going to keep going on.
Right.
If the chance ever came, would you try out for that spot as the new Paul Stanley in the worldwide Kiss?
Of course I would,
Yeah.
you know, but I'm not getting any younger either, so fucking retire already.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't
And
retire.
who knows if that'll ever happen, but hey,
Right.
you never know. I mean, I've heard they were gonna replace all members with different members and go forever.
And, you know, from what I've read, Paul in particular, and it seems like I've read Gene say this too, they're expecting some 20-year-olds to get up there and jump in
Yeah.
and take their spots. And that all sounds well and good, but the people that, are that age, learning instruments and singing and all that stuff, you know, really giving it hell are few and far between. And then how many are really doing that and then adding in that third element of learning Kiss songs and the character. And, you know, so that, to me, that seems like a bit of a pipe dream that they're going to find somebody in their 20s. But, you know, who knows? I've never wanted to spill this beans, but it's not too hard to figure out. You know, why don't Gene and Paul just get their sons?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I believe,
I don't think Nick plays, does he?
I don't
He
know, but
sings,
he's definitely
but-
tall enough.
you know, you can, I mean, you can throw some money at that and teach him how to play bass, you know, and I know that Paul Stanley's kid plays guitar and sings. It's just if they want to do it or not. And, but that to me, I think that the fans would by and large accept that.
Yeah, the other night we saw Cheap Trick and their two kids are playing on stage with him right now, Robin and Rick's
Oh,
son.
nice.
Yeah, Rick's son's the drummer and Robin's son's the rhythm guitar player.
My wife went to that concert
It was
too.
awesome.
Mike Mroz from Back in Black was
Yep,
there.
yep.
Ray was there.
Yeah, I saw him.
Were you there?
I saw him.
No, I didn't
Yeah.
go, man.
I had a
saw
show.
Bob was there.
Oh, yeah?
All right, let's change gears here.
Sure.
Remember, we were talking about Jim Morrison and all that. and
Yeah.
You have a new tribute band called Lizard King that y'all have done one show so far. By the time this airs, you'll have done a couple more shows probably, but tell us how that came to be. I know everybody knows you're a huge Jim Morrison fan, so it was really no shock, but could you pull it off? And I was at the debut show and he
sure
pulled
was.
it off for sure.
I sure appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
to that.
you
Thank you.
sounded great, you all looked great, everything was, I mean, it was really good.
Well, I've always, maybe not always, but for the last maybe 5 to 6 years, I've wanted to do a Doors tribute band. And I always figured, you know, it'd probably be a labor of love because everybody, even Kiss gets squeezed out a little bit because they're not quite 80s either. You know, the 80s seems to be the sweet spot right now.
Right now, yeah.
You know, and eventually, I think some of the 90s stuff is starting to rotate in as well. But so I figured it would probably be a labor of love and it would pop up every once in a while. But the key is, you know, look, Jim Morrison, fantastic singer whenever he was on, which was a lot of the times. He wasn't always just falling down drunk. But you do it enough, you do it 2 or 3 times, well, that's your reputation.
Right.
You know, that's what they put in the papers. So I felt like I could sing it. I'd like to show off that not only can I sing high, but I can sing low and in between as well. So that was kind of a good motivator too. That's also why I kind of started the Hysteria thing, because I can play lead guitar as well. I'm not Yngwie or anything by any means, but I can cut a rug, you know. So, but I wanted to do the Doors thing for quite a while, but it was always, where the hell are you going to find a Ray Manzarek, the keyboard player? Because, you know, he dun, 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 and while he's going solo down, see, I can't even slow this down enough.
Right.
You know, he's playing lead with this hand and bass on the top keyboard simultaneously, and he's really, in my opinion, what makes the Doors go. You can find anybody that can, you know, sing low, possibly. You know, it doesn't mean they're going to sound authentic or look the part or whatever. You know, but you can find a mediocre Jim Morrison until you get somebody better.
Right.
But the keyboard player part is very hard. And then the guitar playing is also, it's very unique because Robbie Krieger, the guitar player, he didn't use the guitar pick. Everything he did was flamenco. You know, so he had long fingernails. It was, you know, they would call it the crab, the way he would crawl across the strings while he was playing and stuff. So that's pretty unique. And then you've got the drummer back there doing the bossa nova beat, you know, most of the time. And, you know, he's he's accenting with the poetry that Jim Morrison's doing. So there's a lot of interplay where people may, oh, that it's boring and, you know, that doesn't sound hard. It's harder than you think because there's a lot of free form to it, and you gotta, okay, everybody come, you can go your separate way for, you know, 3 or 4 measures, or it'll be odd counting measures too,
Right.
you know, or a half a measure here and there, and then you gotta come back together and make a, you know, explosion sound sorta. So it had been something I'd always wanted to do, but with the uniqueness of all the different people in the band and what they brought to the final cake, so to speak, it just didn't seem like it would ever be able to come to fruition.
But it did, and
So
it sounds great.
Thank you.
Is Jimmy
Jimmy
doing the
Adcock is a great Robbie Krieger.
He is. You know, he does do some flamenco. I'll see him using a pick.
He didn't overplay, and he wasn't real loud. He just sounded really good.
He did a good job.
I would expect nothing less, Jimmy Adcock.
And the Raymond Zarek guy, what was his name?
His name is Mike Noche.
That dude was
He's
amazing.
Yeah, he's really good. And I'll tell you, you know, the first time I heard the Doors was in middle school riding the school bus. And, you know, I would hear the same 3 songs over and over, Light My Fire, People Are Strange, and Hello, I Love You. And, you know, they were pretty cool songs, but I didn't go any further into it. You know, when I was young, I don't know if you guys, you know, you were around during black and white.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, when we were kids, it wasn't cool to like black and white shit,
No.
you know, where I was from. Like, oh, that's yesterday's news, you know, I don't want to watch, why don't we just watch silent films, you know, and all that. It just wasn't hip. But, you know, once the movie starring Val Kilmer came out, I went to see that, and I was at a real crossroads in my life. I had been hit by a drunk driver while riding a bicycle, and I almost died. So a near-death experience, and boom, then that movie comes out, and it's like, whoa. It was a really life-altering experience for me, and that was right when I was getting out on my own. I was on crutches for my, you know, whole senior year. It was a tough time, and that movie was just like, wow, you know, everything doesn't have to be like the system says it is. You don't have to listen to your parents all the time or what the government tells you. You can think for yourself.
Right.
So that really changed things for me as far as you don't have to check all the boxes and follow all the rules all the time. You can still be respectful and get to the same point by going your own way too. And I think that is a real lesson for everyone to learn in life, no matter how old or young you are. It's okay to think for yourself and expand on your own. Test your own wings. Don't just ride on the back of everybody else's. So that's what got me into the Doors, and my fandom just grew from there. And then, like I said, just through my travels, getting to go to places where, wow, sleep where Jim Morrison slept, you know, sing where he sang, go see the mural on, you know, Venice Beach, things like that.
Go see his grave. Yeah, like I did. Anyway.
That's a bucket list one. I'm glad he got that in, because that is a bucket list one for me. I haven't been able to get to France yet for that. But I do want to, and now that the pandemic has ended, you know, maybe not too long, but he does have that and many other rock and roll things over me. That's why he's the fucking Godfather.
The Godfather, yeah. Did you ever see Ian Ashbury's
I did.
Doors tribute?
I did.
Man, that guy sounded exactly like Jim, man.
He was with Robbie Krieger on
Yeah.
guitar and Ray Manzarek on
Right.
keyboards. And did you go to the show?
No.
Yeah.
Dinsmore on drums?
He wanted to do it initially, but he bowed out, you know, for some cockamamie reason. And then he wanted to sue them for using the name.
Ah.
He's just always the squeaky wheel, and it's just like, shut up already. Just
There's always
take your
that
cut.
one.
Take your cut, man. You know, they're not trying to not cut you in. But so I did go to that show in Grand Prairie. I don't remember, it was called Nokia or
Nokia
not
back
at
then,
that
yeah.
time. And man, my wife and I and Ray Infante, we all went to that show, and we had about this much of a fifth of Southern Comfort left. And we just downed it in the parking lot, and I smashed it, and let's go in.
Right.
And it was a fantastic show. And we were up in the balcony, and they were about to start light my fire. I could hear them, Ray kind of feeling the keyboards out a little bit. And I was like, I'm getting on stage. So I'm running down there, and I'm going around the turns, and I can't see the stage. And I'm hustling, I'm bustling, and I get down there, and the stage is full of people. It's my original idea.
Right.
But I got up there anyway, and, everybody was dancing around and having a good time. I call it making a fool of themselves, but if they want to dance around, let them do whatever they want. I went over there, and I just watched Ray Manzarek play. Like mental snapshot, and then I did the same thing with Robbie Krieger on guitar, and I just, got memory burn, and I still can see that when I close my eyes.
Nice.
The two original Doors on stage.
Wow.
Anyway, be looking out for Lizard King at a venue near you this summer.
Absolutely.
Anyway, hate to bring things down a little bit, but Christopher had a tragedy in his life recently. His house caught fire, and I'll just let him talk about it, however much you want to tell us about your tragedy and your daughter and your dog.
Well, the way it went down, I got up, had breakfast, went on to Walmart, to buy stuff for the house. I went to buy toilet paper, and I also went to buy stuff to make the bathroom smell better after you use the toilet paper.
Yeah.
So I'm coming out of Walmart, and where the Walmart is the same freeway as where my house is, just further down. And I pull out, and it's a bright, beautiful day, and I see this black smoke arching into the sky, and I'm like, that looks very close to where I live. And my phone starts ringing.
That poor son of a bitch, whoever that is.
Right, I'm like, that looks really in the vicinity of my house. And then my phone starts ringing, and it's my wife. Where are you? And I'm like, I'm leaving Walmart. She's like, our house is on fire. I was like, what? So, I'm just tearing down the frickin' streets trying to not run into anybody because I don't need to compound the problem here. And I get over there, and there's fire trucks all in the street, and it's just noisy, and my house is just, and I go up, and I'm like, oh my God, my dog's in there. And they're like, oh, you can't go in. So, okay, they stopped me. And I ran all the way around the block to the back of my house. I was like, I'm going to sneak in the back and get the dog. And the back of the house looked worse than the front. I mean, it was just a wall of flames. And I was just like, I don't even know where to go. So I just went around the front, and they eventually, got the fire down enough, and I could see them down from outside bringing the dog down the hall, and she was just limp, and when a dog has passed away, their tongue is hanging way out. So I knew it was over, man. And that's my daughter Paisley. That's her first pet that she's ever had. So that really sucked. And the fire started in the backyard from an outlet in the backyard. I don't really know how or what happened. I don't know, but that's where it started. I wasn't home, so I didn't see it, and then our security camera was down that day, so it didn't catch anything. But if it had happened the day before, it was Martin Luther King Day, and my family, we all like to sleep in. Like I keep rock star hours, but my wife and daughter, they'll outsleep me by 2 or 3 hours, So they would have been sleeping. And where my wife sleeps, that's the first room that caught on fire, and the dog was in the closet. That's where she would sleep. And then it raced into the loft, which is where my daughter sleeps, and the ceiling had caved down right on top of her bed. So if
She wasn't home, right?
No, they were both. My wife was at work, and my daughter was at school. And I was out of the house at the Walmart.
Oh.
And but if it had been Martin Luther King Day, they'd probably not be here anymore. I would probably be following after them shortly.
Wow.
Yeah. And a lot of my stuff got smoke damaged. My Kiss collection got jacked up, which that all sucks. But almost everything that my girls own is gone.
There was a GoFundMe that's done pretty well, and then there was a benefit at the Char Bar in Saxe
About
Sunday.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
2 Sundays ago.
That just blew me away. I mean, I know it blew you away.
It
I
did.
walked in, there was nowhere to park at 1:30 in the afternoon, not one spot. And you couldn't even get in that place. It was so many people in there donating money and buying T-shirts and buying stuff, and I don't know how much you ended up with, or if you're even allowed to say, but it almost brought a tear to my eye to see the community, the music community, give their time. All the really big bands were all playing, all just taking their set, even 1 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon, whatever, you know, they didn't care. They didn't, I got a headline and none of that crap. It was,
Right.
Everybody just,
It was
it was unreal.
Chris Mallard, I believe, his label
Chris. Yep.
is the manager of Def Legend. He had a lot to do with it. Stacy Toon, the original singer of Hysteria, and he took a swim through Def Legend singing as well. He helped a lot, and I believe Mike Hamill. I don't know how much he had to do with it. It was him, he and Chris Mallard. I don't know. I think Chris may have did most of the heavy lifting, but Mike, I don't know for sure. I was just kind of like, they just kind of did all of it, and I just showed up and Rock and Roll Over, and I performed Sans Makeup. It was Def Legend acoustically, then Infestation, then Rock and Roll Over, then Rockin' with Dockin', and then
Lucky Ones,
the Lucky Ones. Yeah, they closed it out, and I believe that was all the bands.
Yeah, that was it. And it went real
You know.
smooth. There was a guy grilling outside with food. There was bikers everywhere, all just having a good time, and just everybody got along, and it was just a great day.
It was really cool, and you know, I walked in, and my day was like, it elevated automatically, because I walked in, and the first person I saw sitting
Taylor.
there, Ron fucking Taylor from Lillian Axe. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's the first person I saw too.
I was just like, wow, Ron Taylor, you know, I mean, Lillian Axe doesn't get the props they deserve, but Ron Taylor is a fantastic singer, and I think they had 6 albums with Ron Taylor.
He's
I believe.
coming. He's coming on the show. He's waiting on the Low Side album to get done. He wants to come and talk about it. But he's one of our guests coming up. He's one of my favorites.
Fantastic singer, and I know Wayne Stokely has been on here, and they have
Yep.
their
new video.
He's on the Lillian Axe record,
Yep.
the new one. It's Something of Absinthe
Yep.
is their new video
Feelings
that came
of
out
Absinthe.
yesterday.
Great song.
You know, and I'm from Louisiana, so Stevie Blaze, the guitar player, is like a big hero of mine as well.
I hope to get him on too someday with Zoom.
Yeah.
From Zoom.
So, but it seems like this is, you know, wrapping up. But
Yeah.
I'm honored that you guys asked me to be here. Thank you.
thank
so
But
much,
we got
Chuck.
one more thing. We always got to do top 5.
Okay.
And you're not going to even believe what we're going to ask tonight.
I'm ready.
Top 5 Kiss songs.
Okay.
Now, not necessarily ones you like to sing, just your top 5 favorite Kiss songs ever.
Can I go
But you-
from 1 to 5?
Yeah, but you got to do one 90s song at
Okay.
least and one 2000 up song.
So you're saying I got to pick
Oh, I
something?
mean, no, I'm sorry, not 90s. One non-makeup song.
Okay, I can do that.
And then one after 1990 song.
Okay. Well, my favorite song of all time, like bar none, no other band.
I know what this one is.
No other artist. Detroit Rock City is my absolute favorite song. Now, my number 2 favorite song in the world is Prince's Little Red Corvette. But
Imagine that with the purple shirt.
right.
Okay, anyway.
so
Paisley, was that by
Yeah,
design?
well,
It is.
No, your daughter's name
It
was
is.
that by design?
It is. It is by design.
Yeah.
Her middle name is Parker, which is my wife's maiden name, so Paisley Parker.
Right.
You know, and then my last name that doesn't have the rock star ring to it, because my last name isn't Paul, but that's for another day.
It's Howard.
Yes, it's Howard. You know, as in Stern. I know that's where he's
Christopher Howard.
But and then I'll just go ahead and say a non-makeup. I'm not going to do in any certain order.
Yeah,
but
just 5.
Detroit Rock City is number 1. If I'm going non-makeup, Who Wants to Be Lonely is fantastic. I can name other 80s songs in there as well. I really like. Hold on. Gosh, so many to choose from. I really like Exciter off of the Lick It Up album. Calling Dr. Love is one of my favorites, even though it's a Gene song. You know, I love the
riff.
Yeah, the riff, and then
First time I heard that.
And Gene's, you know, he sells it, man. You know, he is a doctor. You know, and I love Ace's solo on there. So is that 4 now? Mm-hmm. All right, number 5. Edit this together because I need a minute. Number 5. Let's go.
As many songs as you sing, I think.
I know.
Let's just go I Stole Your Love from the Love Gun album.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah. So that's 5, and you can just edit that thought
Make it
process
pretty.
out.
Cool.
You got 5, Chuck?
Let's see. I got 5. I'm going to do number 5 first, which is Nature's Calling. I mean, Tears Are Falling, I'm sorry. and the only reason I like that song so much, it's a great song, but I got to jam it with Christopher one time when me and Taylor put together Us, remember? At O'Reilly's. Yeah, so Christopher came up and we did that song. You actually, I didn't know the drum part. So he said, Chuck, it's just boom, boom, tempted. So, you know, he taught me the drum part right then and there. So that's my number 5.
It was a band canceled the last slot at O'Reilly, so every musician in the crowd got together and they called themselves Us.
Us.
And they just came up with 5 or 6, 7, 8 covers, and everybody picked a part and they just played it. It was
Right.
so awesome.
It was cool. We need to do that again.
Anyway.
So Tears Are Falling. Is it All Hell's Breaking Loose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that song. That's a great song.
From the Lick It Up album,
Lick It Up album.
Exciter is on there as well.
Exciter's on there as well. Let's see. I like that one. And why don't I remember the name, Christopher? It was off the Bill and Ted soundtrack.
God Gave Rock and Roll to You.
God Gave Rock and Roll to You is such a great song. Eric Carr's last video.
Even though
was
it's
in the
not their
video.
song.
Video.
Even though it's not their song.
Argent.
Argent. Yeah, well, their version of it.
Yeah.
And I have to honestly say, I think that that's 3, right? So my second favorite is Parasite, dude. I love
Great
Parasite.
song. You
guys-
do get excited when you happen to be there and we're performing it.
Parasite. And my absolute favorite song from Kiss, Christopher does it. I don't think you guys do the whole thing, but I used to do it in like a medley, was I Still Love You. I love that
Yeah,
song.
when we do it, we do the whole song.
Now you do?
You
Yeah,
know,
They still do it every once in a while.
I just,
My favorite Kiss song, I Still Love You. It's such a great song, dude.
That is a great song.
Paul really
Right.
nailed that on the Unplugged.
Right.
You know, it really took it to another level, Paul Stanley on the Unplugged.
My favorite all-time Kiss song is Black Diamond. Don't know why, I just always loved it when I was a kid. Put it on the live version, not the album version, the live version. Second, Got to Choose. Always loved it.
Hotter Than Hell album.
Yep. Exciter. Love
Something
that.
in Common.
Love that
There you
freaking
go.
song. Psycho Circus, even though it came out
That's
20
a great
years after
song,
they
man.
started, that song is so good. It's one of the only songs I like from 96 on. Really, it is. It's only I don't like any of their last 3, 4 albums. And Unholy's my
Another great song.
non-makeup past the 90s, if I have to put one in there. So I got 2 songs past the 90s.
That is a good one.
Unholy. So, and Chuck, I mean,
Is that
Al,
5?
That's 5.
That's 5. Al?
As usual, I'm going to pick the oddballs.
Okay, I like
I'll go
oddballs.
with War Machine,
Nice.
King of the Nighttime World,
Okay.
God of Thunder,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what, 3?
Mhm.
Plaster Caster,
Nice.
Love Gun, and I already said God of Thunder, probably Black Diamond.
Nice.
Diamond. Good
Good
list.
ones.
Black Diamond is a good song. Paul Stanley wrote that one.
Yeah.
Although Peter Criss sings it.
Yeah, Peter sings it good.
Interesting.
And we're going to call that a wrap. And we want to thank Christopher for coming to see us today. And we will see you guys soon. We're going to plug you got any websites or anything you want to plug right
Yes,
now?
rockandrollover.net. And we are Rock and Roll Over Texas, TX, on Facebook. And as of right now, Lizard King, the Doors tribute band, we have that on Facebook as well. We do have some dates coming up for that. They're just kind of out of town, but we'll get some more stuff around here in Dallas. And I thank everybody for supporting Rock and Roll Over throughout the decades now. It's more than a decade. And the turnout for the Lizard King was just, wow, it was amazing too. You always kind of sweat if anybody's going to show up. So, and I'd like to thank Chuck for, he's put us on some bills with he's put Rock and Roll Over on some Chucky productions, and I really appreciate that. So I'd like to thank both of these gentlemen for having me on, and what they're doing is a great thing for all of music, and I want to thank them.
Thanks. And I would also like to say publicly that thank you to Christopher Paul for giving me a chance to have them on a couple of my production shows Christopher has been nothing but awesome to work with. I mean, we've had to work through a few bugs. I've learned a lot from working with him, and he's such a great guy, such a valuable wealth of information for somebody like me that's trying to just put on some shows. So thank you, Christopher. My first national act, as a matter of fact, my first national act, and I totally appreciate that. But also, Godfather TV, look us up on all social platforms. We're on YouTube under Godfather TV. Press that subscribe button, like and share. We also have an Instagram page. We're Godfather TV DFW. Facebook, Godfather TV, I think. And Al, do you need to say anything else? No, you're good. We love you, Al. Jeff, we love you.
We love
Christopher,
you.
again, we love you. Thank you very much. And that's a wrap. Together, we will make America great again. This is huge. This is huge. And don't forget, my fellow Americans, watch Godfather TV.